Imagine coming home from a week away and your partner looks at you and says, "Something's different about you." And you smile because you know exactly what it is. You're not managing your life anymore, you're living it. You wake up excited to get out of bed. You can say no without the guilt spiral. You know exactly what you want. And for the first time in years, maybe even ever, you're not afraid to go after it. That woman exists, and she's waiting for you in the Sacred Valley of Peru. Jen and I are taking just 10 women on a 9-day transformational retreat this November. And if something inside you just stirred, that's not a coincidence. You're meant to be with us. Visit midlifewomenrising.com/Peru and book a no pressure call with me. It's Sherry to see if it's the right fit. And now on to today's episode.
Welcome. This is the Midlife Rising podcast.
You're a woman over 45 and you're feeling like every week is kind of like you're living for the weekend or you're living for the next vacation. We talked about this last week about how the needing of the vacation is actually a symptom of something much deeper. And a vacation actually isn't the solution. This week, we want to talk about this idea that the concept of settling, what that actually costs you in terms of your body, your mind, your spirit, your relationships. We want to talk about what this is costing you and what to do about it. So stay tuned. We're going to get into this in a few minutes.
You're a woman over 40 who spent your life being the one who holds it all together. But now your body's changing and your soul is done pretending everything is fine. Welcome to Midlife Rising. We're your hosts, Sherry and Jen, twin sisters and modern medicine women, here to help you rewire your stress response, balance your hormones, and reclaim your feminine power. Every episode is a rebellion against the rules you never agreed to and a return to yourself. Join us where midlife isn't a crisis, it's a catalyst.
This is actually part 2 of a 2-part series. So if you haven't listened to episode number 42, you might want to go back and listen to that first, but you don't have to. This will still make sense even if you haven't. So here, we're going to do something a little bit different to start off with. What I invite you to do, our listeners, and Jen, you can also try this as well.
Okay.
Just take a breath. And maybe don't do this if you're driving, because I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. So if you're in a place where you can't close your eyes, then don't do this, but maybe just keep your eyes open and imagine this. Imagine it's May or beginning of June, 2027, a year from now. Nothing has changed. You're in the same job or running the same business. You have that same Sunday night feeling like, oh, I wish it was still the weekend. I wish it was Saturday. Feeling that same kind of autopilot, knowing the days are going to be pretty much what you expect them to be. How does that land?
Oh my goodness. So as you know, I'm working on a side hustle right now. And to just get myself back on my feet after my separation and all of that stuff. And if I was still working this like almost full-time job and coming home and working on our business at night, I'm, to be honest, getting a little burnt out right now. So if I was still in this spot next year, that is not a good outlook for me.
So talk a little bit more about why not? What are you feeling when you imagine that? What are you feeling now that you don't want to feel?
So right now, it's a feeling of a bit of Groundhog Day. Like I'm going to work every day and I'm coming home and I'm working on our business. And I love working on our business. Like that's when I feel fulfilled and excited. But like today, all I wanted to do, the weather's getting nice. All I wanted to do was actually just chill and and I knew I had stuff to do for our business. And I just felt like I can't do this anymore. I can't do this every day where I work all day and then come home and work more or do the second shift when I've got my daughter with me. So it doesn't feel like autopilot. That's not quite the right word, but that sometimes is the word we hear our clients say. I know it just feels, and it's not dread. I don't dislike my side hustle.
It's Groundhog Day.
But it feels like Groundhog Day. Yeah. Like it just feels like it's the same thing happening over and over again. And right now I am living for my weekends, even though I'm working on the weekend. I'm doing our business on the weekends, but I like that better. So yeah. And I just can't wait for my vacation, which is coming in 3 weeks. So I do feel right now like the vacation is the solution to this feeling. And we know that it is not.
Right.
That is not going to solve all my problems.
No, really, it's about creating a life that you don't need to escape from. And I don't feel that way because I feel so fulfilled by my work. I love what I do. I don't mind that we're doing this at 7:00 at night because I like it. And I get to do it with you. And that's good too. And so it's all like, it doesn't burn me out. I feel fulfilled. I feel like I have a purpose and those things. And it feels aligned. So I don't feel like I'm waiting for the next vacation or even waiting for Friday. I enjoy my weekends, but I also sometimes work on the weekends, like just out of choice because I don't know. It feels relaxing to work on weekends sometimes.
Yeah, because you don't feel the same pressure. And sometimes I feel inspired. Sure. Like, sometimes actually on Sunday, I worked like 4 hours because I just had this idea and I wanted to get it out. But what we're talking about here is that feeling like that misalignment. And my side hustle, I took as a temporary thing and everybody at work knows that. So if anybody was listening, they would know that. But it doesn't feel aligned. And that's why it's burning me out is because I'm constantly going to this thing that isn't aligned with where I want to go with my life. And that's the biggest reason why we burn out. Like we burn out because of all the busyness and all the stuff, but misalignment and that resistance, like I'm resisting going to work every day. And that sits in my stomach. I feel it.
It does. And that is sort of getting to the first thing that it's costing you is your body, the health of your body. Because that resistance that you're talking about, Jen, is stress. That is cortisol coming into your body.
Yeah. I wanted to say one more thing too, before we go on to what it's actually costing us. And this is about what it feels like. Because the other thing that I am feeling, and I know a lot of women feel like this too, that is, I feel like I should be grateful because this side hustle fell on my lap right at the perfect time when we were going through like a bit of a financial downfall or free fall, I should say. And I feel like I should be grateful. Like I shouldn't feel this way. Like I feel really guilty for feeling like I don't want to go to work every day. And I would never, like, I love the people at work. I love my boss. And I would hate for her to think that I don't want to come to work every day. So I also feel all this guilt and like it feels a bit selfish, I guess. Like I should be thankful that I have this.
Guilt for actually wanting more. I think I felt like that too a lot when I was in my corporate job. Like I had some great jobs that paid well. I always enjoyed who I worked with and I enjoyed my clients for the most part. I mean, there's always those little things, but for the most part, I enjoyed a lot of pieces of my job, but there was something there was something in the back of my mind always going, there's something different out there for me. This isn't it. This doesn't make me feel like purposeful or fulfilled.
Feeling like this constantly costs a lot. I know this.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it in my body. My body isn't in perfect health right now. As a starting point, like as you said, the first big cost is your health.
I'm just thinking about the cortisol that comes with that resistance, that knowing that you're not doing the thing you were meant to be doing, or something that at least feels more fulfilling or feels more aligned. I felt that way since I was in my 20s. But by the time I hit my 40s and was still feeling that way, that's when cortisol hits differently. When your estrogen declines, you lose that buffer. Like I could handle it when I was in my 20s and 30s. But when I hit my 40s, then it was like, oh, this is really not, like my body does not feel good.
That's exactly what it is. Like the gut issues show up a little more, what's the word? Like harshly. The sleepless nights have come back. So I'm having to take supplements again to help me sleep through the night.
All the menopause symptoms are going to crop up. If you're in your 40s or 50s, that's when all those symptoms are going to show up. And gut issues, by the way, is one of those. I don't know that people know that. If you start having gut issues when you're in your 40s and 50s, that has to do with perimenopause, menopause.
Yeah. And it feels a bit, and the other thing, you know what, the other thing that it feels like that I didn't say is I'm feeling a bit down. Like there's a bit of maybe low grade depression. And this feeling, it's not dread. I've had that dread feeling like, oh my God, like my life, I'm in the second half of my life, or it's not even that. It's like, just like, is this all there is? But there is that feeling of, man, I can't keep going like this. Like this has to stop. I need to move on.
Yeah. And that also, so to go on a little bit of a tangent right now, that comes also with, like, that can be caused by a bunch of different things. That feeling of either anxiety, or for me, it feels like dread, but I think it's actually anxiety. So other people would call that anxiety too. I didn't think of it as that, but it was like this, it was just this unexplainable feeling. I couldn't really put my finger on it.
Yeah.
Or it could feel like depression. That is fluctuation in your hormones, your progesterone. Progesterone is, one of the things that keeps you feeling calm, and that starts to fluctuate when you're in your 40s and then 50s. So there can be a very physiological reason for that, but cortisol is also going to impact that. So I feel that more. So, and if you're in this constant feeling of being misaligned, and maybe you don't call it that, maybe it's like, that niggling feeling that there's something different out there, and maybe maybe now you're too old to go back and start over, or to try to switch careers, or to try to do something different. It might not even be career related. If you're feeling that, then that can actually cause, like, that continuous feeling that is going to cause your hormones to fluctuate. So you might feel more anxious, more depression, or that feeling that you can't quite put your finger on, but it's like this uncomfortable feeling.
Yes, the feeling can cause your hormones to fluctuate.
The feeling of misalignment can causes your nervous system to be in a reactive state. Like it's activated when you're feeling that resistance, that when you're not acting according to your intuition, your gut, there's something telling you this is off, or this is not meant to be this way, or I should be doing something different. Your nervous system is in a fight, flight, freeze sort of state.
It's dysregulated. Yeah.
It's dysregulated. So it's going to cause fluctuations in your hormones, like cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone.
Yeah. And that's because your nervous system governs your hormones. Your nervous system governs everything. And we don't see it that way. We kind of see it as, no, my hormones are just fluctuating because I'm hitting perimenopause, but the fluctuations can be even bigger because of your nervous system situation.
Exactly. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So let's get back to the costs.
Yeah. So to sum that one up, there is a cost to your body. Your nervous system is reacting. So that is going to cause your hormones. It's going to cause your hormones to fluctuate, cortisol to rise, maybe at the wrong times of day. It may cause that then subsequently causes other symptoms, other perimenopausal, menopausal symptoms, the common ones we've talked about lots of times before. So there's a physical reaction in your body. It's costing you your health. And then we could go on to maybe let's talk about the next one first and it'll come out, I think, eventually, the emotional and the spiritual stuff.
Oh, you mean you're talking, I know what you're talking about, your situation that you had over the weekend.
Yeah. Maybe we should just talk about that now, because 2 episodes ago, I did a solo episode all about hip pain. Mm-hmm. And the day that I hadn't had hip pain since 2021, when I was kind of in the throes of perimenopause. And it was one of the few symptoms that I had, actually. And then suddenly, the day that I recorded that episode, I started to feel hip pain. And then a week later, when we published it, I woke up that morning with excruciating pain, couldn't move. I got up in the morning to head into the washroom and nearly threw up. That's how, from the pain. What I was feeling, you and I sort of determined later, and we've talked about it on that episode, is that there's a physical, there's something obviously physically going on in my body, but there's also emotions that are linked, and as well as a spiritual connection with that sacral chakra. And we got to the heart of some of that when, the hips are all about, and the knees, because this was also hitting my knees, is about moving forward. It's about security. It's about maybe not wanting to move forward.
Remind me, share what was, if you're willing to share it, what was this one about? I've forgotten what we got to the bottom of.
Well, it was so much, and I'm not sure I'm totally ready to share it, but it was about it started with, I do think part of it was about my side hustle, because I also have that, and I know it's not what I'm meant to be doing. And there's financial fears that are coming up. That's where we started, that are causing me to want to do this other side hustle because it's easy money. And maybe I should do that to make some easy money to relieve some of this financial pressure that I'm feeling.
But it's not actually what you want to do. And that was sitting in your hips.
When you start to not want to move forward, your hips, your legs, your knees, that is what propels you forward, literally. And so when you have pain or blockages in those chakras, that may have something to do with you really not, your soul is telling you, this isn't, you actually don't want to, deep inside, move forward with this particular direction.
Yeah. And just for our listeners, what we did to uncover all of that was a theta healing session, which is a type of, it's like hypnosis. It feels a little bit more meditative, and it's more of a conversation, and that, so I am certified in that, and Sherry and I just did a session together on, to help her resolve some of the issues that were going on with her hips. And then you felt actually so much better the next day.
Oh my gosh. I actually couldn't believe how much better it felt. So there's that.
I just love hearing that. I had to tell that. It's a little bit of maybe it's not a plug, but I was just so ecstatic to see how much better you were the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. It
was so cool.
We love to hear that from our clients as well. That's what keeps us doing this. It's not even the money. It's the excitement at seeing results.
Mm-hmm. So this emotional cost of kind of living this way, in a way that's misaligned, feels like autopilot, feels like you're living for the weekend. some of the emotional costs, which are linked to the physical costs, are, I mean, to list a couple, it's like snapping at, like it's the being not coping as well with little things. So you end up snapping at people, your relationships start to suffer. It's that feeling of rage that many women talk about when they get into perimenopause. That rage comes up when you are not aligned in your life. And that's gonna cost you. I'm trying to think of other things. Emotions, like, it can cause like grief because you look back on your life and wish that you'd done, like, regrets.
Oh, yes.
Grieving the things that you wish you had done, regretting things that you hadn't done.
Guilt, like you said earlier, guilt for wanting more, guilt for wanting something different, selfishness for, I should be grateful for this life I've created or that has fallen in my lap in some cases, if it wasn't intentionally created. This life that's fallen in my lap, and I should be grateful for what I have. And yet you don't feel grateful because there's something else that you desire. And gratitude, by the way, I just have to say this. You can have gratitude and desire for something else at the same time. Like, that is okay. It's okay to be grateful for what you have and to also want something different or something more.
That's so funny. That actually does need to be said for anyone who listens to the manifesting kind of world, because that's what many people who teach manifestation, it's all about, like, I got to stay in this positive vibe. I got to stay grateful. And sometimes you just aren't ready to be grateful yet for, something that's happened in your life. It's a cover sometimes, like you can't just fake it till you make it. Like, sometimes you just have to allow yourself to go, this sucks.
Well, and what if, like, we are human? We're meant to experience all of the emotions, the full spectrum. They all have value and they all have a purpose. So, with the creator or source, like, really make it so that it's only when you're experiencing these emotions that you get to manifest what you really want. If you're experiencing all these ones, no, you're going to manifest bad things.
Sure. That is such a big emotional cost, is that, like, we are put on this planet, we choose to come to, like, incarnate on this planet so that we can feel the full spectrum of emotions. And if you are pushing down your emotions because you're like, I feel guilty, I should be grateful for what I have, and you're not going after what you desire, or you're just living in this misalignment, waiting for your next vacation, you are not allowing yourself to feel the full spectrum of emotions, and you are depriving yourself of the experience of life. Because that's what experiencing life is. It's not just like having this extremely joyful life. Like, we just want, we sort of imagine, at least I do, that my life should, like, I'm going to be really experiencing life when I'm feeling joy. But actually, experiencing life is feeling all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. And what that brings to mind, I've been thinking a lot about religion, Christianity in particular, because that's the one we grew up with. But what really, like, one of the things that blew my mind, having grown up in a very religious family, you sort of think of Jesus as this, like, never attainable kind of being. Like, he's so divine that, like, he's up there, and I could never be like that. And he's portrayed as like something unattainable. And yet there's little pieces in the Bible where he displays anger or sadness or some of these human emotions. But what really blew my mind, as I said, was that book called The Book of Longing. By, what is her name? My gosh. Sue Monk Kidd.
I love her.
She humanized Jesus, like he was a human. He was here because it was intended that he be in a human body. And so he was intended to feel all of the human emotions, including like, we're not even going to go there, but like pleasure and sexuality and all those parts. Like, did he really come here and not be expected to experience those parts of his humanity?
Well, anyone who's Catholic would probably say yes, but
I know it's a very new concept.
But
like
yes.
that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, well, yes, right. Of course. He was sent here to be human. So he's supposed to experience humanity. He was a human.
And he did.
So anyway, tangent.
Okay.
All that to say, we're meant to experience all the emotions.
Yeah. So that is the second one, or the second big one. All of these emotional costs for you if you are in this state. Okay. And
well, and just related to that, that can also cost you relationships. So the relationship with a partner,
yeah,
like your spouse or a business partner, your colleagues. I remember snapping at
your children,
colleagues, and then being so embarrassed and having a hard time at work. And we're dealing with this actually with one of my side hustle clients right now, who I know she's in menopause, and she is snapping at us all the time. And I think it's going to cost us our professional relationship. So that's another piece of that, is like, what does all of this cost your relationships when all of these emotions and things are coming up as well? Then there's there's your sense of self. So you talked in the last episode, Jen, about how there's like the vacation version of Jen, and then there's the work version of Jen. And at work, you were wearing a mask. And when you do that for so many years, which is also what I did, wearing a mask at work, vacation time was like, that was when the adventurous version of me came out. That was when the fun version of me, the weekends, like that was when I did all the crazy things. And I think like if people at work knew what I did during my vacations and on weekends, like they would be not appalled, they would be shocked, because I'm such a different person at work. And I don't think I am so much anymore. I'm much more of my true self at work, and in business. But you start to lose that sense of who you are, your sense of self, like which is the real version of you. And when do you get to show that? If you're only pulling that out on vacation, like that must feel like such a huge release and relief. But what does that feel to bottle that up continuously during the times when you're not?
And one of the ways that this comes out, and research shows this in at least the business world, and in fact, in a lot of different kinds of occupations, that so many women are, when they're going through perimenopause, especially if you're misaligned, but let me just talk about even just like how the operating system that we kind of stick to or get stuck in. And that is like, go to work, get caught up in email, push through, you're exhausted because you haven't slept well, your brain's feeling a bit foggy so you don't remember everything, or you're forgetting something in the middle of a meeting, losing your train of thought, having to read things over and over before they sink in. All of that causes women to work harder and longer. I shouldn't say all women, many women in their 40s and 50s to work harder and longer, causing cortisol to raise higher. They don't want to tell anybody about it because they don't want it to affect their career path, because they're not quite ready to give up their career. And so they don't tell anybody, and they're holding it all in, and they're suffering in silence and exhausted, and making it all worse, because then they go home, like work after dinner, end up The cortisol spikes in the night because they're so stressed out. They lie awake for 2 hours in the night. They wake up exhausted and it all starts over and over again. And feeling misaligned at work, wearing a mask at work, not telling anybody at work, bottling up all of your feelings, all of that leads to even more of that. Like that just fuels the spiral. So the spiral gets bigger and bigger until you eventually, it blows up. And some women quit their jobs or they retire early. They end up, I met somebody last week who ended up, she was a client actually at one of my in-person retreats. She ended up in the hospital because she was burnt out.
I'm pretty sure there's research out there that shows that when you are doing something that feels aligned, you don't burn out. It's when you're doing something that doesn't feel aligned, that's when you get burnt out.
Yeah. There is research that backs that up. I've come across it in my academic studies. So yeah, the costs are huge. And so coming back to that's your sense of self, that's where I was going with this, is that what women are telling me when they're going through that spiral at work is that they just want to go back to being their old self. They want to reclaim their identity of like, I used to be strong and really capable and I'm a high performer. And that's what I want to be. They want their cognitive edge back, their sharpness. And that is an identity issue, not issue.
Well, it's
an identity shift.
It is an issue
that needs to happen.
I'm going to say, Jen, that is an issue because when you're tethering your worth to an identity like that, you're chasing it because it makes you feel valuable or it makes you feel good. You're using that as you're hustling for that, then that is an issue. If you have an identity that's just like, well, I'm a daughter. I don't have any meaning around that. I'm not assigning my worth to being a daughter. I just am one. That's a healthy relationship to an identity. But when you're chasing after an identity because you think it brings you something or it makes you more valuable or more worthy, then it is an issue. It will become one.
Yes. And if you feel like you need to chase that and that you not having that identity anymore or losing that identity is a decline in this case, like oh my goodness, it's now just a big decline into aging and death.
Well, that's when you feel like you're invisible or you're not good enough anymore. When you don't feel worthy, that is a downward spiral. The downward spiral of unworthiness.
Yeah. So you can see how all these things are so interconnected. Like it's actually hard to say these are the costs and list them off because they're so intertwined with each other, which is why we take a mind, body, spirit approach, because you can't actually tackle any one of these things at a time.
Exactly. And that's, when we say spiritual, that's what your sense of self is. That is a spiritual thing. Your sense of worth, your sense of self-worth, that is a spiritual concept.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, there was a couple more things that I wanted to just kind of bring up because what we really need to do about this, we wanted to offer that to our listeners.
Right. What do we need to do?
What we're talking about through all three of these areas where there are costs, really when you're not being authentically you. So whether that's because you're putting on a mask when you go to work or you're going to a workplace or a career or business that doesn't feel aligned, it's when you are not.
Or a home, sure, that doesn't feel aligned.
A home, a relationship. It could be a relationship with your partner. It could be a friendship that no longer feels aligned. So it could be anything. This isn't just a work thing. But when that doesn't feel right, there will be costs. And that's really when we say aligned, it's about being your most authentic self, like being most true to yourself. It's listening to your intuition. That's actually one of the costs, is you lose trust in your own intuition. You keep shoving it down and saying, no, I've got to go to this job. I'm not listening to my intuition. I'm not listening to my soul. I'm not listening to my desires. They're not valid or worthy. That's a cost. You're going to become out of touch with your intuition, out of touch with the desires of your soul. Like, how many listeners out there, how many of you don't even know what you want anymore? So what to do about it? It's getting back in touch with your intuition, and it's following it. It's listening to it. It's not necessarily overhauling your whole career or your marriage or your friendship, your social circles, like in one fell swoop. It's taking one step every day to like, what feels aligned today? What would make me feel like it could be something as simple as one of my clients told me she was trying to follow her intuition. She was trying to practice this and just went into a coffee shop that she'd never been into. And she ended up running into somebody there. They had this great chat. She had a nice coffee, and it turned into this whole like beautiful thing. And it was just it was a micro moment when she was like, I've never been in there. I think I'm going to go get a coffee.
Yeah, following her intuition. And Cher, I want to acknowledge how hard it is to follow your intuition, especially if it feels like you're going to destroy what you have built. You're going to leave a career and go be a chef or go be a photographer or whatever it is. That can feel very scary. Yeah, or leaving marriage, whatever that might be. And which is one of the reasons why you're talking about micro moments that are tiny baby steps toward that thing that you desire. And it's also the reason why we have a retreat, is to help you do this, to have the confidence, identify the fears, get over the fears or meet your fears so that you are ready to stop living for your vacations and actually live every day with like inspiration and motivation. So we've spent this episode talking about you don't need a vacation. And this is not a vacation. It is, it's in Peru, but it is a retreat that is specifically designed to help you take the steps of letting go of the things that aren't serving you, like identities or emotion, and feel emotions that you have been bottling up. Identify what it is you truly want, and then really step into the person that you need to be in order to go after that next chapter with real confidence and power.
And the magic that happens then, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
We've seen it happen to clients when they really go after what they want and the unbelievable things that they are able to achieve. So as we close this episode, we want to invite you to check out the details for our retreat in Peru. It's not happening till November, but tickets to Machu Picchu sell out in June. So as this episode is dropping, there is actually a bit of urgency for you to check it out if you are even a little bit intrigued by this idea of coming on retreat with us. So have a look at the link in the show notes. It is at midlifewomenrising.com/Peru. midlifewomenrising.com/Peru. Go check the details for this retreat. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be so cool. And there's only 10 women we are taking. So
small, intimate little group.
It's going to be great. Anything else, Cher, before we go?
No, other than thank you, listeners, for showing up, for staying till the end. If you found this valuable, please share it with a friend who's in midlife, and maybe go and follow, subscribe, do whatever it is that is on the platform you're listening to. And we'll see you next week for another episode.